Let me get started. I want to say good morning to everyone. I want to thank everyone for being here. And this morning I'm joined with Chief Troy Fenner, Chief Satterwhite, various homicide investigators, and Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg, Chief Pena. Um, and I just want to start off by just thanking this entire group and so many, many others for working tirelessly over the last I just want to say 4 days, but even longer than that, in addressing the crime situation within our city. This morning, we are announcing the arrest of 2 individuals in connection with the murder of New Orleans Police Detective Everett Briscoe and critically wounding Darren Ricoffey, who remains hospitalized in critical condition. These suspects are charged with capital murder and attempted capital murder, and Chief Fenner, as well as Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg, will speak more specifically to these charges. 4 days ago, we stood here and said we would find and arrest the individuals responsible for the shooting that happened at the restaurant at Grotto's on Saturday, August 21st, and that is exactly what happened. We said we would find them, and I want to thank all of law enforcement and all of the people in the community that assisted in helping to find them. I want to thank Chief Fenner and the HPD homicide detectives and other law enforcement officers on the ground who have worked diligently to locate and arrest these dangerous criminals. I am grateful to members of the community who called in tips, including one to Crime Stoppers Houston, that led to an arrest in this case. I want to thank Houston businessman Tillman Fertitta, owner of the restaurant where the shooting happened, for his generous financial contribution. I also want to thank ATF Houston and Crime Stoppers New Orleans for adding to the reward fund. Let me just say, before this press conference started, I had a conversation with Mayor Contrell out of New Orleans, and number one, to tell her of what was unfolding today and that these suspects had been arrested, and also let her know that we are continuing to pray and offer our support to the people in New Orleans. I am proud of this community and how the city stepped up to do the right thing by calling in to provide detailed information that led to these arrests. This is a heartbreaking time for the victims' families and in many ways for the entire city of Houston and New Orleans. And I do want to continue to extend my prayers to Officer Briscoe's wife and his family and his friends and the fellow police officers in New Orleans. And then I want to continue to lift up Mr. Ricoffey and his wife and his children, family members, and friends. The break in this tragic case won't bring back Detective Everett Briscoe. It won't undo what Mr. Ricoffey is dealing with at this point in time. But I pray this development provides some amount of relief for the family as they prepare to lay Mr. Officer Briscoe to rest in New Orleans Saturday. I have asked Mayor Pro Tem David Martin and his wife to represent the city of Houston at that funeral tomorrow. My heart goes out to his wife, his children, extended family, friends, and fellow officers. And to the Ricoffey family, I want them to know that we continue to pray for him and continue to lift them up as well. The city of Houston is sending representatives, and I just simply ask that we continue to do our best as we move forward. The work on this case is far from over, and let me now yield to Chief Fenner to provide additional details.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, everybody, for being here. I just want to thank our community. And this is what happens, and this is what we talk about when community and police officers come together. And not only this homicide, but all homicides in our city. I'm fortunate and glad to stand with our district attorney, our fire chief, Sam Pena. Thank you for being here. But I don't want to repeat everything that the mayor said. I want to thank Tillman Fertitta, our Crime Stoppers, both here in Houston and in New Orleans, our ATF partners, all of our partners that assisted us. But I also want to thank our team, our homicide team under Commander Deese, Lieutenant McGowan, and all the other investigators. Great work, but we cannot do it alone. But I want to speak shortly to the human element, that sometimes things that go on behind the scenes with families who are suffering because of senseless violence. They're people. I'm proud that I'm going to go down and stand with my colleague and my friend, because I know he's hurting. Superintendent Ferguson and that entire city, and both of these families, we're going to be standing. They got a storm approaching, and then he has to deal with all this. And we're going to stand with them as a city, as a department. And I'm proud. When this is over with, we're heading down. But look, let me say a special thanks to all of our units out there, our SWAT team, our crime suppression, our gang units, our patrol officers. When we stood, we said that we were going to leave no stones unturned, and we were going after these suspects, and we did. So Wednesday afternoon, we arrested one suspect, Anthony Richard Jenkins. His picture is over here. A 21-year-old male. He was arrested on an apartment complex on the southwest side of Houston. Also seized in that arrest was a vehicle, a Nissan Altima, which matched the description of the vehicle that left the homicide scene. Also, Frederick Dwayne Jackson was arrested Thursday, and he was taken into custody by our SWAT team. And before I turn this over to our district attorney, I want to let you know, please continue to pray for both of these families. Miss Ricoffey, I meant to say, and Miss Briscoe, I spoke to both of them this morning. I spoke to Miss Ricoffey last night at the hotel. She's hurting, her family is hurting. Pray for her husband. He's still fighting. But more importantly, pray for everybody involved. And we got even other victims out here that's lost loved ones to senseless violence in our city and other cities. Communities, everybody stand up. Good police officers, good people coming together, solving senseless murders. And we're going to make all our cities in this nation, including Houston, safer. So thank you, and I'm going to turn it over to our district attorney.
So just like on the old TV show Law and Order, the police can make the investigative effort, as they have in this case, to solve a city's terrible crime. It does take prosecutors, however, to take that charge to court. And with that, I want to thank our prosecutor, Cameron Callaghan, works under Ruben Perez in our Gangs and Organized Crime Unit. Cameron worked right alongside Detective Adam Brock, who I want to thank, he and his partner, for all the work that you've put in since this terrible murder and attempted capital murder. And I just don't have enough good things to say about the leadership of HPD, Mayor, under my friend Troy Finner. I knew when he was at the scene this weekend that they would find the killers, and with the aid of his investigators and our prosecutors, they have. So thank you to police, to prosecutors for getting these violent criminals off the street before they could hurt someone else. We're sickened by this bold attack, which left one beloved detective dead and another good friend of his still fighting for his life. And our city's shaken at how this could happen on a weekend afternoon at a restaurant in the heart of our tourist area and the Galleria community. The facts are brutal and they are heartbreaking. And we're going to seek justice for both victims and their loved ones as our prosecutors work tirelessly first to obtain no bond on each of the offenders. It should surprise no one at this point in Harris County, Texas, that both individuals were already out on bond. one on multiple bonds. One for aggravated robbery, following a different victim home from the Galleria, and another for aggravated assault. Both are charged with capital murder and attempted capital murder. And capital murder is the highest crime there is in Texas and under our law, and a conviction can only end in two ways: death or life without parole. And I want our city to know that death is on the table. A senior committee of prosecutors will be reviewing the evidence gathered by the police in this case and will announce what the results of that are after all the evidence is in and due consideration has been given. As I keep saying, I am opposed, along with the mayor, the police chief, to the repeated release of people on multiple bonds. There is no doubt that that is in part driving the crime rate that all of these members of law enforcement are working so hard to prevent. So in spite of the frustration that everyone feels, I think today is a moment that we should be proud of, because you have caught the offenders. There is a third suspect who is a person of interest. No further information will be disclosed about that person at this time. And I just want to thank Chief Finner. He called it right from the beginning. At least one of these individuals, Jenkins, is a known and documented gang member with YSB, the Young Scott Block gang that has been responsible for so many other crimes in the South Lawn and South West area of our city. And I applaud everyone who has been up day and night for doing their job. And I want to thank in advance the prosecutors who will be carrying the ball forward on no bond requests before the magistrates and the judges in the trial courts. And we look forward to receipt of all the evidence, the identification and capture of the third suspect, and moving forward before a Harris County jury. Our juries are comprised of regular people. I think regular people in this county are really suffering under the crime wave that we've been seeing. And so thank you to all of our partners who are working so hard to end that crime wave.
We'll bring up Lieutenant.
My name is Lieutenant John McGowan. I'm the lieutenant over the squad that was assigned this case. I'd first like to say that, as with any case that my squad is assigned, or anybody in the homicide division is assigned, our first priority is to clear the case and to get justice for the victims. In this case, we had some other priorities. One of our priorities was to do a job that my squad could be proud of, that my division could be proud of, and that my department and the citizens of Houston could be proud of. Secondarily was to do a job that Detective Briscoe, Mr. Ricolfi, his loved ones and family, his department, and his city and his citizens could be proud of. And I think that we've accomplished that goal. I'll answer any questions if you have any.
One of the suspects arrested on Laurel last night.
On what?
Laurel Street?
Was he arrested on Wall Street? No.
So you had the Wednesday was at the Fondren apartment, and yesterday was at Southwest, right?
Yes, ma'am.
At the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And can you tell us about the fact that, how did you guys develop leads for them? Because one was like, had a warrant out for a couple, for his, he had jumped bail, and the other young man had another couple of ag assaults. And so how did you develop leads on them?
We conducted research on what we believe to be the MO. We conducted research on the vehicle. We received a Crime Stoppers tip and numerous tips from the community that helped us piece this together and led to these two individuals.
We heard Chief Finner, Chief, tell everybody thank you so much. Thank Crime Stoppers, thank Silver Petita, the community as well for tipping up. Has a $100,000 been paid out on this? Is the tip connected to $100,000?
I can't speak to that. That would be a question for Crime Stoppers at this point in time. I'm not going to commit to anything because I don't know.
Which of these individuals is believed to have fired the shots, both or just one?
That's still under investigation. I'm not going to get into that at this point in time.
Is there a third suspect?
There is a third person of interest that we're not going to discuss today because he is not charged. We have no evidence to indicate it was anything other than a robbery gone bad.
And can you
Jackson
talk
also a
about,
documented gang member of the YSP?
Pardon me?
Is Jackson also a documented gang member of the YSP?
He's a gang member, but different gang.
Can you tell us what they were doing beforehand? Court records suggest that they were robbing people in the Galleria area.
We have them in the area on surveillance video, doing robberies and engaging in activities that would be indicative of stalking people to do robberies.
We're talking in the high-end area by State 48, IPIX, that area along Westheimer.
We have them at several locations, those being some of the locations.
and would it be accurate to say that what how they conducted this robbery is similar to perhaps some of the other crimes they're already charged with, relating some of the cases they're already dealing with?
Like I stated before, when you start looking at the MO, there's a striking similarity which led us to these individuals.
And what was that MO? Can you describe what their intention, what they would tend to do?
In my opinion, and the evidence tends to show that they were targeting people for, basically for high-end jewelry.
Did you recover the firearms used in the crime?
We have not yet.
DA Ogg, you indicated that there were multiple bonds that these gentlemen have been out for. How many total bonds, or which courts are they out of?
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Jenkins was on bond for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The bond was $40,000 when the new offenses were committed. He has a prior, which normally juvenile convictions are not disclosable, but this one is in the public record. He had a 4-year determinate sentence in 2017. So he was out on 1. Jackson was out on, and I'll have to tell you the court in a minute. Jackson was on bond for aggravated robbery for an incident that occurred in 2020. He's accused of, in that case, of committing an aggravated robbery along with a co-defendant of a complainant who is believed to have been followed home from the Galleria area. That victim was robbed at gunpoint of items in excess of $40,000 in value, and he's had to post 2 bonds in this case because he was forfeited once in January of 2021, and he forfeited again on August the 11th when he failed to show up for docket as a result of cutting his ankle monitor off. The time he cut the monitor, he was out on a $150,000 bond for the aggravated robbery. There is some indication that the desire to obtain bond money could be involved in the case for another individual. You know, I want to say that the way that bail is being handled right now by bonding companies can and may have compounded the problem by just taking a small percentage and letting those accused who are out pay the balance. It can be considered a motivation for further crime to raise their bond money. Additionally, for other gang members or friends or family who are in jail, sometimes criminals can be motivated to try and rob to raise more money for their bail. So bail is the thread that is unraveling community safety right now, and it is our desire, every person up here, starting with the mayor, to restore order right now to the city.
And explain, they were not eligible for no bond, right? Because people tend to, just before this happened, they were not eligible, or?
I'm not prepared to tell you right now. Bail is a judicial responsibility, and we presented evidence in these cases, and all I can tell you.
Because we listened to one of the PC court document cases, I believe, for Jenkins, and I believe the prosecutor, the DA at the PC had mentioned that he was not eligible for a no bond situation prior to this charge.
I'm not sure. What I can tell you is that these ankle monitors, there's at least 4,000 people as I understand from the judiciary, there's about 4,000 people out right now on bail with ankle monitors. I think these can and do give the public a false sense of security because they are dismantleable.
Do we know when you cut it off, specifically the date?
After, I think, I don't want to guess, Mario, I can find out.
Mayor, as we heard from the lieutenant, as well as Chief Finner, if you don't mind weighing in after the mayor, as we heard from the lieutenant, this is an act of robbery. And from what we have gathered and what we reported, this was a random act. There was no target in this incident. This said, what message do you have to the citizens in Houston who are visiting locations now and see this, and this is a robbery? This was not targeted. Is there a message that you have for citizens about being aware of the surroundings?
Let me just say, I don't want to get too much into the weeds on this case because I didn't investigate it, so I really can't speak. I'm gonna leave that to the detectives and the prosecutors to try this case. I do want to take the opportunity to encourage people and people in our community to provide the necessary tips and information because that was helpful in this case, and the community plays a very important role. And I do want to thank the persons in our community who knew something and said something, and they didn't wait. Okay, so I do want to thank people for doing that, and let me encourage people in the city to continue to do that on other crimes. That will help these detectives and prosecutors, all of us, to get these people off the streets, and then can get them in jail and hopefully keep them there. And as we've all said, we don't agree on multiple bonds, especially felony bonds. So we want to be very clear on that. In terms of regardless of what the motives may be, whether it's to rob or whether it's just to commit a senseless crime that can lead to murder, there is no justification and no excuse, okay, in my mind. There's absolutely none. So there's no justification you can give for wanting to rob somebody. I don't care what anyone may say, or something that may end up in murdering someone. No justification, no excuse. And what I will say to the people in this city is that the city of Houston and this administration will provide HPD with whatever resources they need in order to do our job. We're going to do our job, okay? And that's why I certainly want to thank these detectives, these police officers who have been working around the clock. Chief Finner and the district attorney alluded to it. Chief Finner called this one from day one because over the weekend he told me who he thought committed these crimes and perhaps possibly where they could be found. And I would tell you he was spot on. So I do want to acknowledge him and then acknowledge people who stepped up. The Crime Stoppers out of New Orleans. Let me thank them, and I thank Mayor Cantrell, Crime Stoppers here, AFT, Tillman Fertitta. I want to thank all of these individuals. But we will have a safer city as long as we are all working together, and this is where the community stepped up in real time to make that happen. So there are others who have committed crimes in our city, other families who are hurting. What I would say to those other families, we will find the perpetrators of those crimes and we will bring them to justice. We will find them. It may take us a little time. We will find them, and then we will help to make our city safer than where it is today. Much, much safer.
And maybe the chief can talk a little bit about this. I just had a question, General. Like we've covered over the last year, this being the most high profile of so many robberies and crimes related to Galleria area, people followed home. Is there anything business groups in that region, like the Uptown Park and some of the larger business owners, is there anything they can do?
They are, and let me commend them for working with us. A lot of those businesses, you see, they have hired extra security, off-duty officers. But let me cut through a few things, and because I told y'all we have a suspect that we're still looking for in this one, and we have some other ones. So these are our top-notch investigators. I want to get them back to work, but not so much of what other people are doing. You know what the message should be to these violent crooks out here, okay? And that evening, I said it and I meant it. The message is to them. You think you're going to just keep victimizing people in our city? It's not going to happen. Our citizens and our entire team, we're going to stand up, we're going to work together, and we're going to put people in jail. and everybody in our criminal justice system, and y'all know I'm not political, everybody has to do their part. And that's my ask. Everyone, every arm, every finger of this criminal justice system, do your part, and we'll have a safer city. Now, we're going to break it. I got to get them back. Thank y'all for showing up. Go ahead, one more.
Off that response, I need some
2 questions, you and him. Go ahead.
that response that you just had just now, I need some clarity here because you just indicated.
And you have been listening to Police Chief Troy Finner there, adding his comments to this press conference about the arrests. They picked up 22-year-old Anthony Jenkins at a Southwest Houston apartment complex on Wednesday. That is where the Nissan Altima you have been seeing in surveillance video was also seized. A SWAT team arrested the other suspect, Frederick Jackson, yesterday. District Attorney Kim Ogg saying both men were out on bond for other crimes. As you know, that has been an issue. She will seek no bond for them in this case. Investigators are looking for a third person who they say is a person of interest. We also are hearing that the suspects are gang members or have gang relations. They were targeting people for high-end jewelry when the shooting took place. The mayor and the chief both asking families of the victims for you to keep the families of the victims and New Orleans Police Department in your prayers.
But look, let me say a special thanks to all of our units out there, our SWAT team, our crime suppression, our gang units, our patrol officers. When we stood, we said that we were going to leave no stones unturned, and we were going after these suspects, and we did.
Today, also the viewing for Officer Everett Briscoe. His funeral will be tomorrow in New Orleans at Xavier University. The other victim, Darren Ricolfi, was shot in the head. He remains in a coma and is here in Houston. All right, turning our eyes now to the tropics as we track Tropical Storm Ida. Right now, Louisiana preparing for Ida to make landfall as a Category 3 storm, likely on Sunday. That is the 16th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. The New Orleans area is opening evacuation shelters, emergency crews, prepping drainage systems and sewage pumps to reduce standing water on city streets. We've got a live look out of Galveston right now. Salt, as we can see those waves coming up ashore. The big question, of course, is what is the latest track on the storm and whether or not we may be, a little bit anyway, out of the danger zone. Addison Green, what do you have?
Oh, Sherman, as we're waiting for the next update to come on in from National Hurricane Center.